It is now a week. It will be exactly a week today that we will at least have the earliest indications of who the President of the United States of America is going to be. And for the next week, there will be the usual frenzy of international and national news media who will opine on this issue. But can I say, I don't care. All right, so I think it's really important for you to understand I have no particular vested interest in who gets elected the President of the United States of America. As far as I'm concerned, the overall debate and the frenzy, which is almost as mad can get, three sheets in the wind stuff, this, but also it's also, I would suggest to you, a media form of tarantism. And if you don't know what tarantism, I could get you to go and look it up in the dictionary, but let us just put it this way. It is when you dance. So the whirling dervishes did it. When they sort of dance in a mad and sort of complex way and go into a trance. That's pretty much what we're seeing at the moment from the media over the US presidential elections. Almost without exception, that is because the media who are writing, and this is true of our media in this country as well, are determined that Donald Trump should not be elected as the President of the United States of America. Now, there's a reason why they think that. It's not just because they don't like Donald Trump, but because they are in one of those supine political positions where they're looking at a sort of quasi-black woman who is running in the Democrat side as well, who's on the side of a number of liberal issues, for example, like abortion. Well, I guess it would be about the only liberal issue that they would be aware of, and they want to see that sort of form of progressive politician, they think, get elected into the most powerful position in the Western world. All right, that's fine. So the media in this country have decided that Donald Trump is a bad person. And you will have received in the last, oh, good God now, it's gone for months, but it's starting to ratchet up in New Zealand Herald and Stuff, Radio New Zealand, Television New Zealand, you name the media outlet in this country. A whole series of pejorative pieces aimed at denigrating the character of Donald Trump and not talking about what he's talking about, but attacking him as a person, attacking his past, his commercial background, the people he associates with, anything except what policies he's proposing, any sort of detail, should he be elected to that particular role. And so the most recent, of course, is the fact that a so-called comedian, and I think that's the only word that you can describe American stand-up comics, but a so-called comedian by the name of, what's his name? Tony Hinchcliffe, suggested at a rally that Donald Trump was holding at New York at Madison Square Garden, of all things, that Puerto Rico was a floating island of garbage. And apparently this particular phrase has now meant that Donald Trump must lose the election because somebody who was in the warm-up act for Donald Trump appearing at this rally made an impolitic or impolite commentary about a country from which people have fled. I mean, it's sort of like the Tonga, if you like, of, yes, that'd be the best description. It's sort of like the Tonga of the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. No one wants to live there. Those that do live there deeply resent it, and most Puerto Ricans, like most Tongans in actual fact, live in New Zealand, Australia, anywhere but Tonga, and you can understand that once you go there. All right, so that's sort of, there you go. Well, in this particular case, you would now, so that's fine. So there is the amplified hysteria that Donald Trump is clearly unfit to be the President of the United States of America because someone in the lead up to one of his rallies makes an off-colour joke. Oh, whoop-de-doo. And therefore has eviscerated the support of roughly 37 million Hispanic voters at this coming election. So there's my first oh my God moment. But the stunning thing is that New Zealand media are running CNN News, aren't you, Radio New Zealand? You're running CNN News, which is an anti-Trump outlet and is a pro-democratic voice piece. It's the left-wing equivalent, if you like, of the right-wing Fox News. So, of course they're authoritative, aren't they, Radio New Zealand? No, they're not. The New York Times now has been run by Stuff and by the New Zealand Herald in this country and their pieces, despite their editorial board coming out 4 days ago and saying that Donald Trump is a despicable individual and they do not want him to be elected, and they have endorsed Kamala Harris. All right, that's fine. But now, when you've exhibited your bias and you've made it clearly obvious on the front page of your masthead, then why would you suggest that anything that comes out of the New York Times is authoritative or accurate? I mean, that's absurdity. It's like going to Pravda and asking them their question, what do you think of Vladimir Putin? And we'll put it on our things and treat this as sort of news. That's pretty much the way it is over there at the moment. So that was the first oh my God moment that I had this morning. But it was the madness of the New Zealand media going to clearly biased and clearly Democrat media sources in the United States, and then picking up their opinions or then picking up their news stories and suggesting to you and to the rest of New Zealand that this is somehow authoritative, factual reporting. Reporting of the record, so to speak. Yeah, right. And then they ask why we don't trust the media. And then the media come to us and they say, why don't you find that we're credible? Why do you keep on doubting what we're telling you? I would have thought that Exhibit 347, i.e. the US presidential election, was a pretty good example of this. That was my first oh my God moment, almost as good as, and for those of you who haven't caught up with this one, Real Madrid, which is probably, it is. It's the best soccer team in the world. It's a debatable one. It's there or Manchester City. But it doesn't matter. Boycotting the Balloon d'Or Awards because their star player wasn't going to be called Player of the Year. So it was sort of like, let's throw our toys out of the cot on a large and industrial scale, as Real Madrid did. But then you come home and you see more oh my God moments. The Otago Daily Times this morning, picking up on that New York Times, has written an editorial. This is the Otago Daily Times in Dunedin. Now, you wouldn't think they had an opinion on the US presidency because at the end of the day, who cares what Dunedin thinks? Even in New Zealand, people say that. So why would the United States of America regard what the editorial writer of the Otago Daily Times thinks today? But the Otago Daily Times today, look, I show you, there it is, have written an editorial slamming Amazon founder Jeff Bezos for not endorsing Kamala Harris. For not endorsing Kamala Harris as the US presidential nominee that should succeed. Now, Jeff Bezos runs a newspaper called The Washington Post. And traditionally, over the last 20 years, only over the last 20 years, mind, they have endorsed a particular candidate, always usually a Democrat candidate, because this is Washington, D.C., and I don't think they've ever voted Republican in the history of the United States, have they? Somebody will tell me if I'm wrong. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. It's certainly not this century. Jeff Bezos, who owns it, decided he's not going to do any endorsements anymore, and for a very valid reason, and it is the moment that I endorse my paper will not be taken credibly because you'll end up like the New York Times or CNN News or Fox Sports. You're clearly in one camp, and so you can't rely upon our news. Fair enough. Very good argument. But the Otago Daily Times, in their editorial today, have decided not only to slam Jeff Bezos for not letting the Washington Post accredit their particular reputation to one of the presidential candidates, but they've actually suggested that this is an affront to democracy. I know. Oh my God moment number 3 this morning. Oh my God moment number 4, the Dunedin police. Why do the police do stupid stuff? Why do the police do stupid stuff? All right, I just want to ask that question because now the police have decided that they are going to stop or seeking to stop in Dunedin, of all places, a show from taking place at the Otago Polytechnic, which is designed to raise money for suicide victims. Why? Do they want to stop it? Oh my God, because they'll be serving liquor at the function. And everyone knows, says the Dunedin police, wag wag, that there's a link between suicide and liquor. God, not enough of it. If the attitude of the police in Dunedin, quite frankly, is to be endorsed. That's my oh my God moments this morning. And I could go on